conflict on who was the best rapper. It was between Big Daddy Kane and Rakim. I always went with Rakim. Always, you know what I'm saying? Brother was serious, you know what I'm saying? He didn't compromise his lyrics. You know what I mean? Went hard.
It'll never be the same because our brother's not here, DMX, you know. And he was like, yeah, and he started talking to me and he started crying and I'm crying. And but you know, we like, you know, he's talking with that, and I'm like, this man, his energy is something else, man. And people need to understand, DMX had more love than most rappers will ever see.
We all know what was going on with hip hop at that time, man. When he came through this raw, I was like, thank you, man. Finally. It was like New York could stand up.
Rakim isn't just any rapper, he's hip-hop royalty. He's widely seen as one of the greatest MCs to ever touch a mic, so when he gives someone respect, it actually means something. His approval isn't casual, it's earned, and it carries real weight in the culture. One of the rare artists to ever get that level of love from Rakim was DMX. A lot of people have said X had more love in the streets and the industry than most rappers ever did. And Rakim co-signing him only pushed that legend even higher. Things went up another notch when the two finally connected and even worked together, sending hip-hop fans into a frenzy. Now let's really talk about it. DMX might have been the most electrified human being to ever walk this earth.
We all know what was going on with hip hop at that time, man. When he came through, this was so raw. I was like, thank you, man. Finally. It was like New York could stand up again.
Exactly.
Is I love MCs that say that I can't say, you know what I mean? And D, you know what I mean? He spoke it from day one.
The man was straight raw energy. On stage, in the booth, during interviews, even in regular conversations, that intensity poured out as rage, pain, and real emotion that powered his music. But every now and then, that fire flipped into something else. Pure excitement, real joy. One of those rare moments happened because of Raw. Believe it or not, Rakim and DMX didn't meet face to face until the 2000s, decades into both of their legendary runs.
Person that I heard that started using like inside rhyme schemes.
Right.
And coming back at the end and hitting the, you know what I'm saying? He did something that hadn't even been thought of yet.
Original.
Yeah, it was like, and he single-handedly pushed the genre forward to be more complex lyrics.
You'd think two New York icons like that would have crossed paths way earlier, but it didn't happen until around 2013 backstage somewhere. And when it finally did, it was pure hip-hop magic. DMX lit up like a kid meeting his hero. He said growing up there was always a debate about who the best rapper was, and it came down to Big Daddy Kane and Rakim. He said, I always went with Rakim. Always. Brother was serious, he didn't compromise, his lyrics went hard, and he didn't even curse.
You know, what I do is a little different from what Dre do, man. So, you know, creative differences as far as, you know, Dre, you know, he make his kind of music and I like to make my.
X was blown away saying, that's the ish. That was like, wow, this dude spit some gangster-ish and didn't even curse. He then started rapping long verses from Microphone Fiend and Follow the Leader, two of Rakim's coldest records, word for word. Rakim, usually calm and stone-faced, was clearly caught off guard by X's intensity, but he welcomed it. He embraced DMX like a younger brother and showed love right back, saying DMX brought New York back in the late 90s.
Present a track, 9 times out of 10, he'd be like, I want you to, you know, talk crap on this one. But my way, I guess, of talking crap is a little different.
Rakim went even further, praising X's raw emotion and saying DMX had a rare ability to express things most artists couldn't. And when that kind of respect comes from Rakim, one of the most precise lyricists ever, that's not just praise, that's real acknowledgement. To make it even crazier, DMX brought Rakim out on stage that same night.
We used to hop cabs. I used to hate it though. I'm like, man, why are we hopping like a $3 cab?
Just picture that moment. The crowd losing their minds seeing those two giants standing side by side. Two different generations of New York hip-hop, shoulder to shoulder, locked in pure mutual respect. And it didn't stop there. They even worked together on a track called Don't Call Me. That collab was solid proof that X's passion and realness earned him a real seat at the table with the greats. No questions asked. What made DMX special wasn't just the voice, the growl, or the bark.
Free ride. Cabin's a free ride. I'm not paying. Out of here. I paid him no mind. That's the only thing I was paying him, no mind.
It was the fact that he was always real, There was no switch to flip, no fake version for the camera. The same intensity he brought to the mic, he brought to real life. He could be wild and ferocious 1 minute, then drop to his knees and pray with fans the next. He wasn't scared to cry in public, to show pain, to talk openly about his demons and his faith. That kind of raw humanity sticks with people forever.
I'm gonna pay for it. I don't wanna hop it this time. And then he was like, what, you getting rich on me? He was mad at me for saying that. Someone told me I reached under the seat and the driver had a gun. And I showed X and he was like, wow. Like that day that we would have hopped the cab, that guy could have shot us.
Nas once talked about a moment while filming Belly where DMX broke down crying, and Nas said he started crying too. That's how powerful X's energy was. Pure, unfiltered, unapologetic emotion. That's what made DMX more than just a rapper. So when Rakim gave DMX his flowers while he was still alive, it really meant something. Everybody knows Rakim is a certified legend. His influence on hip-hop is untouchable. Before Rakim, most rappers were working with simple rhyme patterns, catchy hooks, and that classic old-school bounce. It worked, but it was basic. When Rakim stepped in, he flipped the entire game upside down. He introduced internal rhymes, multi-syllable patterns, deeper metaphors, and a sharper, more intellectual way of writing.
X, come on, man. X was like the first battle rapper to us. X was really robbing people and rapping about it later. Like, yo, man.
Instead of just rhyming words for rhythm, Rakim built verses with layers and meaning, like poetry wrapped inside rap. More legends back that up too. One hip-hop icon even said that before Rakim, the word flow wasn't even part of the culture like that. Rappers talked about rhyming and cadence, but Rakim was the one who really created what we now call flow. That's the level of respect DMX earned, and that's why that moment between him and Rakim still hits different to this day. His impact ran that deep with his DJ and partner, Eric B. Together, they formed an unstoppable duo and dropped 4 classic studio albums before eventually going their separate ways. That run wasn't just successful, it was historic, the kind of streak that reshaped the whole culture. In 1987, they released Paid in Full, and to this day, it's widely considered not only their best work, but one of the greatest hip-hop albums ever made. It landed right in what's now called the golden age of hip-hop, and once it hit, the rules completely changed. Paid in Full wasn't just another album, it was revolutionary. Critics, fans, and fellow artists all agree it set a brand new standard. Alex Ogg, in his book The Men Behind Def Jam, called it the duo's magnum opus, pointing out how Rakim's style on that album laid the foundation for an entire generation of MCs. His intricate rhyme patterns, ice-cold delivery, and thought-provoking bars helped lock the East Coast in as the home of elite lyricism.
We had a show, me, him, and Big Pun in Brooklyn, and after the show, we stopped at the gas station. Meanwhile, the whole crowd was just going, stop, shut him down, open up, chop, oh. Like, DMX was crazy.
Journalist and author William Jelani Cobb said Rakim's rapping stepped completely outside the old-school traditions that dominated before him, breaking the mold without even forcing it. Cobb also argued that even as rap continued to evolve, very few artists, if any, ever reached the lyrical heights Rakim introduced to the genre. The New York Times credited Rakim with leading a quiet musical revolution, highlighting how his calm, razor-sharp style redefined what a rapper could even sound like. He didn't need to yell, jump around, or do the most to get attention. He spoke, and people listened. That presence was powerful all by itself. AllMusic's Steve Huey called Paid in Full one of the most influential hip-hop albums ever, and said it's absolutely essential listening for anyone who wants to understand the foundation of rap music. MTV went even further, ranking it #1 on their list of the greatest hip-hop albums of all time, praising it for raising the bar both lyrically and sonically.
When he played the FBI agent was the craziest thing I ever heard. Was that true? Did you really put the light on in the car and bust through the gate?
I think that's hilarious.
Everything needs to be in perspective. See what
They described it as captivating, profound, innovative, and instantly influential. Rakim himself later landed at #4 on MTV's list of the greatest MCs of all time, which is no small achievement considering the heavy competition. Now here's where Rakim's story gets even more interesting, and it really shows who he is as an artist and what he stands for at his core. See, Rakim is one of the very few rappers, maybe the only one, who actually walked away from working with Dr. Dre, and that alone says a whole lot. Dre isn't just a producer, he's a straight-up giant in the music game. The man helped launch and shape careers like Snoop Dogg, Eminem, 50 Cent, The Game, and Kendrick Lamar. That's basically a Hall of Fame lineup built from the ground up. A Dre cosign is like a golden ticket in hip-hop. Most artists would leap at that opportunity without thinking twice. But Rakim wasn't most artists. Back in 2000, Rakim signed with Aftermath Entertainment, Dre's label. The plan was a major comeback album titled Oh My God. Fans were hyped, and rightfully so. The idea of Rakim's elite pen linking up with Dre's legendary production felt like something that could shake the entire industry. On paper, it was perfect. Rakim's sharp, intellectual lyricism mixed with Dre's polished, hard-hitting beats should have been pure magic. But somehow, that album never saw the light of day. Behind the scenes, the project kept going through changes. New sounds, new directions, different people involved. Delays piled up, momentum slowed, and little by little, things started coming apart. Still, Rakim wasn't completely missing during that Aftermath era. He dropped a verse on Truth Hurt's hit single Addictive, showed up on The Watcher Part 2 on Jay-Z's album, and appeared on Eminem's 8 Mile soundtrack with the song Rakim. So the presence was there, but the chemistry behind closed doors just wasn't lining up. By 2003, Rakim made a bold move and decided to leave Aftermath entirely. And just like that, oh my God, one of the most anticipated albums in hip-hop history was shelved indefinitely. Naturally, everyone wanted to know why. Why walk away from Dr. Dre, one of the greatest producers of all time? When Rakim finally spoke on it, the answer was simple: creative differences. Rakim explained that he wanted to take the album in a more conscious direction. He was focused on depth, meaning, and substance. That's always been his lane. He's never chased shock value or tried to put on a tough image just for show. Rakim stayed true to who he was, even if it meant walking away from the biggest opportunity most rappers could only dream of. But Dre was pushing in a different direction. He wanted Rakim to lean more into gangster-style storytelling, the same lane that made it was just two icons seeing the art from totally different angles. Rakim, being Rakim, wasn't about to bend. He could have easily gone with the flow, jumped on Dre's beats, and dropped an album that probably would have smashed the charts. The industry was ready for it. But instead, he stayed solid to who he was, even if that meant walking away from what could have been a huge comeback moment. That decision said everything about Rakim's character. Integrity always came before hype, numbers, or headlines. He wasn't chasing trends. He was protecting his legacy. Now let's flip it back to DMX. X wasn't just another rapper with a hot run. When he dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot in 1998, he completely shifted the energy of hip-hop. The sound got darker, more emotional, more aggressive, and the game never looked the same after that. And X didn't slow down. He followed that debut with 4 more albums, all debuting at #1. No one had ever pulled that off before. By the time DMX passed in 2021, he had sold over 74 million records worldwide. That's not just success, that's cultural impact across generations. Of course, you can't talk about DMX without talking about his wild side. The stories are endless, and anyone who ran close to him says the same thing. Being around X meant chaos was always right around the corner. People joke about it now, but back then it was real. Running with DMX almost guaranteed you'd end up in some crazy situation. And honestly, making it out unharmed was a blessing. Swizz Beatz has told plenty of those stories. One of the wildest involved them hopping in cabs and straight up not paying. That was just how X moved at the time. Swizz once talked about a moment when they took a cab together, and when they arrived, Swizz tried to pay the fare like a normal person. DMX snapped on him, heated that he'd even consider doing that. But things shifted fast. Swizz pointed out that the driver had a gun. That's when reality kicked in. DMX calmed down real quick and agreed to pay, because if they tried their usual move that night, it could have ended way worse. That's DMX in a nutshell. Fearless, unpredictable, real to the core, and sometimes just 1 second away from chaos. And then there were the robbery stories. DMX had a reputation for moving reckless back then, like rules didn't really apply to him. People close to that era say X treated dangerous situations like everyday routines, sometimes even rolling with his dogs nearby, adding to that fear factor that followed him everywhere. Fat Joe once told a wild story that still gets talked about. He said him, DMX, and Big Pun had just finished a show and stopped at a gas station. Out of nowhere, a guy walked in wearing a flashy chain, and according to Joe, DMX took it right there on the spot. No hesitation, no second thoughts, just raw impulse. That was the kind of energy X was on during those years. Everything felt unpredictable, fast, and intense, like anything could pop off at any moment. But DMX's run-ins with the law didn't start after fame. They started way before the world even knew his name. His first time behind bars came when he was just 15 years old. What landed him there was stealing a guard dog from a junkyard. That incident sent him to a juvenile detention center in Valhalla, New York for a short stretch, but that was only the beginning. By 1986, DMX was in trouble again. This time, he received a 2-year sentence and was sent to a youth facility upstate, a quiet, isolated institution far from the city. The place was tucked away, surrounded by woods, and didn't even have proper fencing. Guards didn't expect anyone to try escaping, and that's exactly why X saw an opening. Just days into his sentence, DMX and another teen named Bobby started plotting an escape. Bobby came from a completely different world. While X grew up in the gritty streets of Yonkers, Bobby was described as a sheltered kid from a wealthy background. Somehow, the two connected. Maybe it was frustration, maybe just teenage defiance. And they came up with a plan to slip out through a rec room window and run through the woods. No alarms, no fences, just darkness and distance. And against all odds, they pulled it off. DMX actually made it all the way back home, thinking he had beaten the system and gotten away clean. For a moment, it felt like freedom, like he'd outsmarted everyone. That moment says a lot about who DMX was back then. Fearless, impulsive, and always testing limits. Long before fame, long before music, long before the world knew his name. But once his mom found out what he'd done, she shut it all down immediately. She wasn't playing around at all. She made DMX turn himself in and go back to finish his sentence. No excuses, no shortcuts. So back he went, this time to the McCormick Juvenile Detention Center in Brookdale, New York. And if anyone thought that experience would make him lay low, that wasn't the case. While locked up, DMX got pulled into more trouble, this time over accusations involving pressuring another inmate over substances. That situation made things even worse and got him transferred to a higher security facility. By mid-1988, DMX was finally released. But by then, something had changed. His name was already starting to buzz, not just in the streets, but in freestyle circles too. People were noticing his raw talent, his voice, his delivery. The music was starting to click, but the street life still had him in a tight grip. Even as his rap skills sharpened, the chaos never fully let go. DMX couldn't completely escape legal trouble, and arrests kept stacking up over the years. One of the wildest moments came in 2004, when he made national headlines in a story that sounded unreal. After being arrested at JFK International Airport, reports claimed DMX and a friend tried to impersonate FBI agents. Fake badges, sirens, the whole setup. It was bold, reckless, and unbelievable all at once. According to reports, DMX allegedly tried to bypass traffic by driving his SUV through a security gate. Once inside, he reportedly pulled over a civilian vehicle, flashed a badge, and started shouting that he was federal law enforcement. That stunt didn't just turn heads, it brought serious consequences. When real police showed up, they didn't just find someone pretending to be an agent. Authorities reported discovering illegal substances, a weapon, and other prohibited items inside the vehicle. The charges came fast and heavy. Criminal impersonation, substance possession, weapons-related charges, menacing behavior, DUI, the list kept growing. It was another moment that perfectly captured DMX's life at the time. Talented, fearless, and completely unpredictable. Always walking the line between greatness and self-destruction, even when the spotlight was already on him. As long as he stayed clean and followed the rules, he could stay free. But if you know DMX, you know staying out of trouble was never really his strong suit. Even as the years rolled on, the legal issues didn't completely stop. His final stretch behind bars came in 2018 when he was sentenced to a year in federal prison over tax-related charges. Prosecutors said he avoided paying roughly $7 million by living strictly in cash, refusing to use bank accounts, and keeping certain records out of his own name. DMX ended up serving about 10 months and was released in early 2019. That marked the last time he would ever walk out of a jail cell. After that, it honestly looked like X was trying to get things right. He stayed low-key for a while, focused on staying clean, staying spiritual, and putting his energy into what mattered most, his family, his health, and his music. He slowly started performing again, popping up at shows and interviews with that same raw honesty fans always loved. For a moment, it felt like the dog was finally catching a break, but then tragedy hit. On April 2nd, 2021, DMX was rushed to the hospital after suffering a heart attack, reportedly linked to a substance overdose. He was placed on life support, and for days the world watched and waited. Fans prayed, artists showed love, the entire hip-hop community held on to hope for a miracle. But on April 9th, 2021, DMX was pronounced passed at just 50 years old. A legend gone, but a legacy that will never fade. If this story moved you, make sure you drop a comment and let us know what DMX meant to you. Hit like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video so the story keeps getting told. We'll see you on the next one.